This is Jonathan Mickles with the Strategic Multifamily Investing Podcast, and today I have with me Mr. Frank Corsi. How's it going, Frank?
Hey, how you doing? Doing great.
Excellent. So, as I've stated before, I'm pivoting the podcast to kind of make it a little bit more broad, if you will, in the blockchain space. Specifically, I'm interested in real estate at the intersection of blockchain. And this gentleman has a little gray on his head, but it's not
hmm
just because he's getting older. This man has a wealth of information and has actually been involved with computers and computer technology and in the internet for a very long period of time. And I want to talk about who he is. So, Frank, tell me a little bit more about your background, your schooling, and kind of how you got involved with the internet.
Yeah, for sure. I got involved with the internet back in 1985, basically, with what they call a bulletin board, a BBS system, where we would have phone lines connected to a computer in our house, and people would dial in, and we'd play games and share messages, and it grew from there. It grew into what was called the internet, right? The internet became the World Wide Web, and I was part of that development in the early 1990 and built a data center in Fort Lauderdale in 1991, and grew from there. And dial up. I did dial up around the United States with a guy named Mark Cuban. He did radio on the internet as well, and he was one of our customers. And there's plenty of things we did throughout the time. I semi-retired a few times over the years, and just got to the point where someone came up to me and said, "Hey, blockchain is causing trouble. We're having problems with the public key. We can't remember the codes, and we can't send them to people." So I helped them, create a naming system that we could talk about it. It would help, make it a little easier for people to just say, "Hey, here's my whatever, and here's how to find it, and here's how to monetize it, and here's what I want to do with it."
So let's go back there. You
Yeah,
said you did some work with the billionaire Mark Cuban early on.
correct. Yes, for
Wow.
sure.
So how did you meet Mark?
We had a data center, a partner and I we had a data center in Fort Lauderdale, and we were doing web hosting. At that time, we were the only real web hosting company publicly in Florida, or in that's east side of the United States back then in 1990. So we had contracted with BBM Planet, which is the backbone of the internet, to buy internet access directly from them. My partner at the time was in the construction business, so he understood, cut out the middleman, and he said, right now we're paying like $2,500 per month for a T1 to MCI at the time. And he said, that's too expensive. We need to go direct. So he contacted BBM Planet. He negotiated for us to get a T3 to the internet, which is 45 megabits for $18,000 a month. And I'm like, "But that's not saving us any money. We're paying more." And he said, "No, now we can sell them to other people." And it was a very smart idea, because we sold 2,912 T1s to customers,
Wow.
and we've sold them for $975. So we were selling them cheaper than the people we were buying from. Smart partner I had, yeah. So we sold T1s, and we had that internet bandwidth, right? Since the whole internet was running on 45 megabits at the time, and we had a direct connection, direct from our data center right to Atlanta, to Georgia Tech, right to the backbone. So customers that needed a lot of bandwidth came to us, including the Olympics came to us, and I think it was 1996, was it, or 94, whichever year it was. But we had the Olympics streaming through servers in our data center. It was like all roped off with caution tape. Nobody could go near that rack of servers, but it was kind of cool. It was NBC that was doing it, but we had the bandwidth to do it, and we were able to do it. So that would have attracted Mark Cuban to us. And he said, "Hey, we want to broadcast radio on the internet," and he's told, we're the guys to do it. So we talked to him, and he brought a computer and a radio, and would put an antenna on the roof of our building and plugged it into the radio, but it was still a lot of static. So I told him, "Why don't we run a wire directly to the radio station?" Because we were selling T1s at the time. So I said, "Why don't we run a T1 right to the radio station and cut out all the noise and the hassle and have a dedicated connection?" And then we ran, I think, 3 or 4 of them for him. And then he couldn't afford to pay the bill, believe it or not. He was like, "I can't really swing this bill. It's like getting expensive." And he didn't have any advertisers at the time. So we made a deal to, like, we'll supply the wire. You just, supply your end, and we do our side. Well, our side is dial up. We put dial up in all these locations around the United States, right? And we quickly grew to 780 locations, and we had dial up pretty much in control. And at the same time, the internet was being developed, and domain names were being created, and and my company was, one of the root server operators for two of the world root servers.
So let's talk about that in terms of, you said you were a root server operator
Yeah.
for domain names. Explain what a name is
Yeah,
quickly,
let's
just
do
for
that,
fun.
right? Yeah. So a domain name in the beginning, okay, and the original in the beginning was designed for corporations that had a domain, like IBM, for instance, right? They have a big corporate office and they have maybe 7 locations. So they would have atlanta.ibm.com and then, chicago.ibm.com. And then off of that, you would have, marketing.chicago. And that's how the domain name structure was designed, that infrastructure layer. And then you could have email accounts at these different various subdomains, right? That's what it was basically was. You have a domain that's a company, and then the subdomains are each location, and then the users. It kind of drilled down, and that's how the design was made. And if you look at the original documentation, that's what they talk about. But then what happened is it started growing, and I'm to blame because I was selling websites in the 90s, like, hey, Jim, you real estate, you need a website, people are telling me like, who's going to buy real estate off of the computer? I'm like, listen, and sometime there, everybody will. Just sit tight. They didn't believe me.
So you were ahead of your time then in terms of letting people
Yeah,
know that e-commerce is happening or can happen on the
right.
internet. And
Correct.
so you being a root domain server provider, you were selling the domains like IBM.com to companies, right?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. I was actually managing the top levels. Like if you had a
Oh,
country like Costa Rica, we managed the whole .cr for them. Right. And then we helped them sell the, Jim.cr and whatever name, that sort of thing. So we were
wow.
kind of like a back end provider, they call it, like what I can would call it now, back end provider. Yeah.
So you're now you've also been or are a member of ICANN and some of the
Yes, I
other
am.
large organizations, right?
Yes. The World Wide Web was created, obviously, and that is run by a group called the W3C. The W3C organization manages all the standards and, keeps everybody the programming code in order so everybody don't step on each other's toes, right? And the W3C is the standards, right? So that's been created inside of MIT, which is behind me. So MIT, obviously, I'm a member at MIT. I'm a student there, and we kind of go hand in hand with W3C. So I became part of that early on. ICANN, I kind of fought ICANN a little bit in the beginning because they came in and kicked everybody out of the original network, which is INAIC, and they took over. But it's kind of what happened. But it's kind of a system now where you have ICANN has their own protocol, and then other companies can create their own type naming systems like we have that run independently. The internet itself is made up of computers that are connected together, and all the name does is allow you to find one place to the other. The
Gotcha.
computer is run on an IP address, a number, and the name just says where to find the number.
Right.
So if I type in IBM.com, it'll say go to this number.
Gotcha. So then that is all Web 1,
Oh
Web
yeah,
2. So
yeah,
so Web 1, if I'm not mistaken, right, and you can correct me here on this one, is pretty static, right? Not very much interaction. It was just a bunch of links that took you from one place to the next. You could click
yes,
on this thing and get that. You might be able to see, an image. Web 2 now elevated that to now you have interactivity.
right,
No one saw years and years and years ago that, Facebook would even exist at the time, but now we have social interaction, we have communication, we have video, we have
right,
audio, we have so much more, if you will, right now. And that's the world that we're living in is Web
yep,
2. But then there's this thing called Web 3 that's still
right,
kind of, amorphous. We're still trying to figure out exactly what kind of shape it has. And so, of course, artificial intelligence is a part of that, and
right.
VR, virtual reality, augmented reality. But there's a big, big word called blockchain that's also a part of Web3. Talk to me about what you understand Web3 to be and what blockchain is exactly.
Correct, correct. Yeah. So yeah, a lot of people see it different ways, right? It's, like the cloud, a lot of people can call it different things. Still, when he boils down to it, it's a computer connected to the internet, right? You put a bunch of them together, you call it a cloud. A blockchain is again a bunch of computers connected together like a cloud, but now there is a different mechanism in place, different software mechanism in place that allows the ability to have a chain, right? That chain would then allow records to be created and not deleted. So there's transparency, nothing can ever disappear, right? Things are just added to the database, if you would call it a database. And then that's how I see it as a database. So in the development area that I'm working in with developing now Web3 applications, what I really see, ironically, is it's Web1 all over again. Because if someone says to me, hey, I want Web3. Now, let me back up for a second and tell you what I think Web3 is. Web3 is a state of mind. It's not necessarily a software technology, or it's not a thing. It's more of a state of mind, because you can't really cut out Web1 and Web2. They're still going to be there. It's not going to go away. The static billboards are still going to be in Web3. You go to a Metaverse, there's a static billboard there, right? So that's Web1. So it's all going to be there. So Web3 is a combined effort of all of them. That's the way I look at it, right? So the main thing is we want to own our data in Web3, right? That's the main thing. We want to say, hey, that data is mine, that information is mine, and I want to control it. I want to allow people to see it or not see it.
Let's talk about that a little bit more, because in Web2, we don't quote unquote own our data. What does that mean, that you don't own your data in Web2?
Yeah, even Web1, if you back up to Web1, right? Like say you take a photograph, you put that photograph online and you stick it anywhere online, a free place, say online, right? Just stick up a photo, not a social platform. Let's say just, you upload it somewhere. Well, that's sitting online, right? And it's sitting out there. It's in one place, one location. You have to know the address to find it, and somebody else could find it. With Web3, a little bit different, because now you can say I own that data. I put it on a decentralized network, which is a bunch of servers connected together, right? And now it's the data that's assigned an ID number. And now this ID number represents that data, that photograph. I can now go to any one of the servers on the network and say, hey, I got this ID number, give me that photograph, right? Now I can build a web page and put the web page itself on the decentralized network. But internally in the web page, I can reference these ID numbers for all my images and graphics, and even paragraphs of words I can put in this decentralized network. So now it's stored. It can't ever be removed. It's there forever, right? So it's a good record. It's connected to the blockchain to show who owns it. So you say, here's my data. It's on this network. Now who owns it? Well, the owner is the person who uploaded it, and it's verified by the blockchain. The blockchain, again, is another chain where you now own an NFT, which is a digital asset that you own. And that digital asset, with today's modern technology, allows you to actually make them intelligent. So years ago, the NFTs were just an image you could buy online and trade them with your friends like a trading card. But now that image can actually hold things and do things and actually operate with its own. Like, for instance, you could take one NFT, like we have a name. Our name is an NFT. You buy that NFT from us, and initially we burn it, we create it. And then from there, you can say, I have an image, and my image is called Jimmy. It's a photo of my friend Jimmy. Well, you put it on the IPFS network, it gives you an ID number. Now we assign it to your name. So it's your name dot Jimmy, right? So we can easily find that photo, right? And then what happens is internally in the blockchain, we're creating other NFTs underneath that NFT, and it's owned by that NFT. Now, with modern technology, now we can create what are called token-bound accounts in blockchain. What that means is an NFT can actually be its own cryptocurrency, the actual currency itself, the issuer of the currency. So you can say, I want 10 billion tokens, and it'll be in that NFT, and it'll say, okay, 10 billion tokens, start selling.
Well, let me ask this question then, because NFTs. Let's take a couple of steps back, because you
I know
you did jump, you run.
Yeah.
So everybody, this gentleman is an MIT graduate. So, and he's worked with Mark Cuban, and he's worked with the Olympics, and he's worked with
other stuff. Yeah,
he's he's not even sharing everything. He's very modest.
Still doing it. I'm still doing it now.
Yeah, I know. So you're very modest. Thank you so much for taking time out today to join us.
Education's key.
Yeah. So going back to the original question in terms of ownership, if you take a picture and you put that picture out on the internet, that picture, actually anybody could actually upload that picture and even impersonate you as being the one who put out that picture, or if somebody generates something now and puts it out
on Web1, right, or Web2, yeah.
On Web2, we don't really know who that is.
Well, not really. Web2, we do know more, and I'll tell you why. All right,
Tell me.
Go ahead and finish. Go ahead. All right, so Web1, the image is just there. It's static. Nobody knows how it got there, right? The image is just there. And literally, there's very little log files or little very little information on how that image got there on Web 1, right? Web 2, we know where it came from because Web 2
Okay.
is tracking all your information. If
It's
you go to
tracking everything. What do you,
Web
tell
2
me
is
about the
tracking
information
everything.
that is tracking?
Your IP address, your browser type, your histories, cookies, things are stored in your browser. So you see what I'm saying? Web 2 has a way of knowing who put your image there, right? That's why police can go with a court order and grab that information and find out who put that image there. Because Web 2 does have a lot of data mining, they call it, right? So they're doing a lot of statistical data. They're storing a lot of information. That's why if you go to a website and you look up, a football, all of a sudden you're going to be seeing football ads all over the place, right? Web 2 records your information, right? And that's what people hate. They hate that. But yet it's part of what's making the whole circle happen. So with Web 3, you own it. Means now you have an actual NFT that you own on a blockchain that belongs to you, right?
So
Nobody can copy that.
Let's talk a little bit more about what an NFT is. And I mean, I
Yeah.
think I understand it a little bit, but for everybody else that may not understand it, an NFT is short for non-fungible token. So, you've got fungible tokens and non-fungible. So let's look at it in terms of like the dollar. A fungible token, that's something that you can spend. You can spend $1. But then a non-fungible token, let's look at, say, your home. Your home would be a non-fungible token. You can't realize the value of how much it really is worth unless you convert it or you get somebody to give you money or finance in order to be able to purchase that thing. And even if you're in a defined neighborhood, if you will, where they're all, spec homes that are being built, even if it's the exact same home with the exact same features, the exact same colors, it is still not the exact same home, right?
Exactly.
Because the difference is the address on your home is different from the address of the exact same home right next to you. So even though they may look the same, feel the same, have the same attributes, they are different. And so that's the difference, I think, between an NFT. You cannot necessarily realize the value of it unless you exchange it for something versus having a dollar bill, which is fungible, that you can actually use. So with your NFT, the picture that you're going to upload, that picture is really like the picture that you would have in a Polaroid. You have it in your hand, you own it, and you've signed the back of it or whatever, and you've placed it out there. And so that's kind of what we're talking about. Did I do okay with that explanation?
Oh, that's perfect. Yeah. And then the blockchain validates that you're the owner. Because when you look at that image, it's going to say the owner is this blockchain address. And if that's the same blockchain address as the real owner, then it is authenticated.
So they say the blockchain
is used for that.
They say the blockchain is a ledger, a public ledger. What is that? And you mentioned that it can't be changed. And I think that speaks to the immutability. Talk to me about what a public ledger is and why we want that these days with blockchain.
Public ledger would basically be your key, which identifies you, and data that goes along with it, right? Data could be a balance if it's a token, like how many tokens you have. It could be any other metadata that you assign with it. Like in our case, it could be assigned to a photograph. If you upload a photograph, we can assign that to that NFT. So that NFT now has another NFT that is that photograph, right? And that photograph could be an NFT that has 1 million copies. And then you can now start spinning off 1 million copies of that NFT if you wanted to, or use that NFT to unlock a door. Like say in real estate, I know we're talking a little bit about real estate and everybody likes that, but imagine having an NFT that you own. It says, hey, this is me, this is my blockchain ID. And then under that, I have a property that just got added under my NFT from Jim. And he says, hey, go check out my property. And I can now go to that property and hold up my phone. And because I have that NFT, it opens the door for me, right? And then I give that NFT back to Jonathan or Jim, and now I don't get in the house no more. So that kind of eliminates the whole door lock problem. I think these are some of the use cases, right?
That's a pretty good use case. And I guess that's not too far off from right now because, right now we have a lot of keyless entries, for those who have maybe say short-term rentals or things like that. They actually go up and press a code or whatever, and the code changes and the owner can change the code on their phone. But we're talking about going well beyond that because even though the owner gives a code to someone through one of these websites that, they may, rent temporarily, somebody can give that code to someone else and then they can actually access or enter your home. And that's a problem. That's a security risk. But now we're talking about a way of being able to have an NFT on your phone, on a keychain, whatever, something on a device that says, this is Bob, this is Frank, this is Jonathan. And by presenting that, it knows that it is you entering that particular home or that particular place.
Exactly, it's the same thing. It's the same thing they're doing now with the remote keyless entry with the real estate numbers on the door panels. The only thing is that the blockchain is going to authenticate it, and then it's going to go by API and it's going to tell that device to unlock the door. When the NFT is presented. It's working right now in the Metaverse world. So in the Metaverse world, if you have an avatar and you have that NFT, you can get in. Like if you go to a club and you have a certain NFT, like a hat, then that hat will allow you to get in the club. But if you don't have that hat, then you're not getting in the club. Then you got to buy the hat or earn the hat. But either way, that NFT has got to be in your wallet in order for you to get into that club.
That's amazing. Yep. So now, you've been working, if you will, with top level domains. You've been working, with billionaires. You've been working with other major things, in structuring the internet. Now you are working with an organization called Blockchain Names. Tell me how you got to Blockchain Names and what Blockchain Names does.
Sure. Okay. So, like I said earlier, someone came to me and said, we were building mining machines in 2017 when Bitcoin was like, $1. I just found an old image on my hard drive. I have an old hard drive here I'm playing with, and I found this old image. I took a picture of selling Bitcoin, like 0.233 Bitcoin for $94. I'm like, whoa, what would that be worth now? Like $15,000, right? But anyway, back then we didn't know, right? So, someone came to me and said, "Hey, listen, I'm having a problem." And I said, "What's the problem?" And he said, and I was helping guys put machines together, hardware. And he said, when I send money to someone, they said they never got it. I'm like, well, we can go to Explorer and look it up. Let me look at your account, let me get your key, and we'll look at the transaction, and it's all transparent on the blockchain. You can see where everything went. And I said, well, your money's right here in this account. And he said, well, here's my friend's email, and this is the email, the key he gave me. And I looked at him like, you're missing the letter L at the end. And he's like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, look, here's the address you sent it to, which is it's there in that address, but nobody owns that address. He said, well, how do I get it? I'm like, you don't. It's gone. He said, well, can't you make a name to make it easy so I don't have to cut and paste these long numbers? And that's when I said, all right, I can make a name. So I made a name that worked with wallets originally. And then from there, it started growing and expanding into more functionality with URLs and websites and other things. And when I talked to the community, he said, we really like what you have, but we really want more control, more ownership, and we want it to be based on an NFT. And my partners at the time, I was with a venture capital firm, and they said, we're going a certain direction, that's what we're doing. And we agreed to part ways somewhat, and I decided to build a new naming system from scratch, and we called it Blockchain Names. And what this does is actually creates an NFT. You come in, you say, I want a name. My name is Johnny. If the name's available, you can request it, and then it creates an NFT. And that NFT is minted on the blockchain immediately. It's in your wallet. And then from there, you can now start assigning data to your NFT, adding data to your NFT. The NFT already knows who you are. So whatever you add to it is already authenticated as yours. And then it makes it a lot easier to share your data, monetize your data, hide your data, that sort of thing. Now we're working with communities that are building communities that are using this platform to monetize data and all that. I mean, one of them is hip hop. Hip hop community with the top level domain name owner for the .hip hop. His name is Monty Cohen. We actually finalized our deal with him today, so we can talk about it. So he owns the top level domain hip hop, and we own the blockchain name. So we're going to merge them together, so somebody can have their Web3 address with us and actually have their data on the blockchain and on this decentralized network, but still say, hey, here's my Johnny.hiphop domain name. And that when you go there, it'll have a landing page that shows all my data on Web3 and links to how to get it and what it takes to interact with it. And then we can also cross-chain it. We can like send data back and forth between Web2 and Web3.
So one of the things that I've heard about with music and Web3 is that, some organizations are interested in using Web3 to be able to ensure that when they're selling the music, that it's being given to someone else, and that they're not doing back in the
Yeah.
90s, taking
Right.
a CD and ripping another CD from it and then
Yep.
giving it to 100 of their friends. And so
Yep.
with this idea of having an NFT, right? Because we talked about
Right.
being able,
Ownership.
yep, say again.
It's ownership. And you can make
Don't,
an album, you can make as many albums as you want, right? So say you got a new title, new title, your new track you make. You upload it to the block decentralized network, right? You create it as an NFT and you say there's 100 of these. That's it. There's only 100 of them. As you start selling them out to people, you know who you sold it to. The blockchain knows who you sold it to. And that's it. 100 of them are gone, they're gone. It's gone forever.
and
And
if
then the
their friend
value is on their
wants to
own.
get
Yeah.
if their friend wants to get a copy of it, they can't get a copy of it unless somebody, one of those 100 people, sell them the NFT
Right.
for them to be able to get that music.
Or you upload a second original,
Ah,
pump out another 100. See? But then there'll be like different batches, like batch 1, batch 2. And I'm already talking with artists about that, with hip hop, about how we're going to roll it out and how we're going to organize it and manage it. And of course it's new, so we have to manage it and understand how it works and make it happen. But it's really cool because the music could be inside an NFT. You can have an NFT that's actually a name of the title of the song. And then inside that NFT will be the music. And you could have it actually distribute that music and then sell that music with its own token called my music song title is my token, right?
and you can
And
even probably create not only that, but create a community such that if
yes,
somebody shares the fact that they liked it as much, that they grow in status, and then they can earn badges and things. And those
right.
badges could be ways for them to be able to get VIP access to the next concert that's coming up.
Open the
So
doors again.
it opens doors. So there are a myriad of different ways that this technology can be used and put out there, and you're at
Yes.
the helm of it yet again. So
Right.
just
Yeah, I
like,
have to be.
yeah,
Yeah, you can't be working with yesterday. I'm on LinkedIn and people hit me up like, hey, you want to hire some people? I'm like, if you got somebody that can keep up with me, bring it on. What programming language do I use? I use my own, okay? I'll teach it to you.
there you
But it's
go.
really good because I add value because we own our network, we own our software. We're not using any off-the-shelf software. So when customers come to us and say, hey, we want, dot event, dot event is one that's on the table right now. We have somebody interested in it. We're telling them, hey, yeah, you can plug in an event-based system in the back end. You can connect it to, Google Calendar if you want to. And they're like, really, how do you do that? So we're putting a domain name in the background, right? So by having a real domain name in the background, and you want to bring up your Google Calendar, we can communicate through that Web2 domain name to Google through their API.
And here's the thing that I want to share with people. You know, you, Frank, you're a genius. You're talking fast and all this wonderful stuff, and I hear you, and I understand where you're coming from. We've had several conversations about doing this in the real estate community, and
Yeah,
we've started making some inroads and some introductions to people to potentially use blockchain, in this way in terms of helping to name things, especially say in the multifamily syndication world. Instead of you
right.
having all of your documents and whatever, maybe in some of the other platforms, of course, you want to have things that are SEC compliant. You could use the blockchain to make these things SEC compliant, keep them secure, make sure that people have access that shouldn't have, that should have access, and keep away from those that don't, et cetera, et
Yep.
cetera, et cetera. But you're at the beginning again of a new boom. Just like you told people back in the day, people will buy real estate from the internet, and they said,
Oh
you're
yeah.
lying. Some people
Yeah, they
said, I
didn't
would
want it.
never give my credit card to a
Oh, they
website.
never said that either. No, I was there
Right.
for all of that. Yeah, you know that. But they're all
So
doing it now.
they're
I
all
had to
doing.
create it. I had to create my own processing company, buy a bank, and set up our own processing. And in the '90s, credit cards online was not really there, but we did it. And when we did it, we mastered it. We started using resellers and doing it for other people. Helping them out as well. But yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
Web3 is definitely going to change the world. And in the metaverse, if you look at it, they're already collecting rent with NFTs. They're already unlocking doors to property. They're actually, leasing things and making financing with these NFTs. It's all growing and evolving as people look at it and say, "Wow, I could do this with it." Human nature. It
Yep.
kind of makes it evolve. So the tools are there, the platform is there, and I don't call Web3 something different or next. I call it a combination of all of it. because we're going to have static stuff. And a lot of Web3 is technically static. You know, you've got the blockchain. You can't change it. It's Web 1, right? Isn't that Web 1? What we defined earlier, right? Decentralized IPFS network. You throw your image out there. It's out there. Can you change it? No. What happens if you want to have a different image? It's a different image. It's got a different ID. What if you change the color just a little bit? It's a different image, a different ID. That image stays there forever, you know? So with that in mind, it's Web 1, right? It's Web 1 with the authentication. So you got Web 3 as the ownership and the authentication, but it's still authentication of your Web 1. Or if you want to interact, it's now Web 2. And we have Lookup Menu, which is a social platform that one of my clients put online. And it's like a social platform. You can go in there and post things and have friends, and it all works off of this decentralized network, you know. So it's kind of really cool. But it's all Web 1 stuff, you know, it's all stuff that's coming Web 1. Because you're going into your control panel saying, I want to post a news article, and you post it because you own it. And then the social media platform just picks it up off the blockchain and says, hey, I see you posted something. So that's kind of Web 1. And now, can people respond to it? They can, but then are they really responding to your message? No, they're responding to your message on their own. And I say that because it's a tricky part. If they want to leave that network, their comment is gone. If you want to leave the network and you made the post, you're gone. Their comment still belongs to the person who made the comment. It's just lingered and not attached to anything anymore.
And that's quite different from, say, Web 2 right now, where you're on social platforms and whatever you say is still there, even if you leave the platform, unless you delete all the data off
you
of it.
You can't. They have backups.
They have backups.
Right. You can delete it all today. They got yesterday. You know, in the web business, we all have, 30, 60-day backups all the time, rolling backups. So they have a backup. They always do. With Web3, you own it. It's yours. And then you put it on a Web 1 style platform to store it. And it's free. And it's there forever. No one's ever going to take it. And no one's ever going to edit it or modify it. But then now, what do you do with it? So now we're starting to tell our clients, you really need Web 2, don't you? And they're like, yeah, we kind of want to at least get notified on Web 2, or at least, can I do this on Web 2? And we're like, yeah, we got to buy domain names. Buy domain names is what we're doing, and plug it into the infrastructure in the back end to make everything work seamlessly. It's a great technology. It works well together, and I think Web 4 is just around the corner. Honestly, I think we haven't even got through a Web 3 yet.
I've already heard of Web 4, and what I've heard Web 4 is to formalizing, taking Web 2 type things and putting them in the Web 3 context.
Right. That's why I was saying you comment is kind of right, because in Web 3 you comment, it's your comment. Is it Jonathan's comment? He made the post. No, I commented on Jonathan's post, but it's my comment, right? Can Jonathan edit my post? No, he can't edit my comment, right? So then when Jonathan takes his post, says, you know what? Let's just get rid of that. Take it off the platform, right? It's still on the internet, still on the platform, but he just said take it off the social media, hide it. Well, now my comment's hidden. What Web 4 is going to do is keep all that shit still there somewhere. You'll see. It's going to be really cool. But it's where your users are connected to each other. And I'll give you guys a hint. If you guys want to research something, if you guys are smart, all right. When you have two people that don't know each other, but you want to send encrypted data between each other, there's a method called the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Look that up, straight research, and you'll see how you can trade encrypted information between two people. And there we have the foundation for Web 4.
Gotcha.
It's already out there. And it's old 1970s technology, again, and MIT people,
MIT people. So
of course, man.
You guys have been thinking about this, and you're so far ahead of time. And so, Frank, I want to say thank you so much for coming and opening up our brains. Mine is blown. There's so much that's going to be happening. How do people get in contact with you, especially if they want to learn more about what you're doing over at Blockchain Names?
Blockchainnames.io is our main website. We have resellers. We basically sell through resellers, and there's a variety of them. But our main website, blockchainnames.io, will link you to everybody.
Excellent.
And on LinkedIn as well. Look us up, blockchainnames.io on LinkedIn. We have a lot of information on LinkedIn. It seems a lot of our customers are hitting us up there and looking for that to be a source of data. So as we update content, we put it there relatively quickly.
Blockchainnames.io, or go to LinkedIn and search blockchainnames.io for the social contact.
There you go.
And I want to say thank you again for allowing me to be able to interact with you and talk more about real estate and how blockchain can help do that. And thank you for allowing me to be a part of the advisory board.
Yes, sir.
And for blockchain names, and we're doing some things there. But we have kind of a longstanding thing that we have as a last question for all of our guests. It's giving people the boot. It's the last piece of information, or the one piece of information that you would give to someone to take the next step, the next action, either in life or within the context of, say, blockchain. What is that one piece of information?
Well, obviously, you got to get started somewhere. You know what I mean? I mean, where? I mean, you got anywhere. I would say go grab an NFT somewhere. You can buy one of our names and play there, but our names are more if advanced. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, I mean, our names, like, no sense buying a car if you don't know how to drive a car. But get out there and get into Web3. Buy an NFT somewhere. Go to one of these markets and exchanges and say, hey, that looks cool. It's $1. Let me buy it. Then once you buy it, you get to experience it. You get to play with it. So I'd say the only way to learn is to get in there and do it. Get your feet wet.
There you
And
go.
when you get your feet wet, come to me and I'll help you get more advanced. Yeah, make it happen.
And he can definitely do that. And so over the next coming months, I'll have more guests like Frank who have Web3 companies and or doing things in the Web3 space, and specifically those that are in the real estate Web3 blockchain space. And we'll do some more there. But again, thank you again, Frank, for your time,
Yes,
and
sir.
looking forward to working with you in the future.
Hey, I love what you're doing, man. Thanks a lot.